So will our American guest Warren Buffett coax top Indian industrialists to loosen their purse strings to donate money for charity? To discuss this, we're joined by Rahul Bajaj, chairman of the Bajaj Group, and Suhel Seth, managing partner of the advisory firm Counselage. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Bajaj, first question to you. What is your opinion on the giving pledge where people pledge to give 50% or more of their wealth to charity, and do you think there'll be a lot of takers for this?
You know, it's not a question of how appropriate it will be in India or who all will do it, how many will do it. The question is, each country has its own circumstances. India's philanthropic and charitable activities are there for hundreds of years, much more than America can dream of. America is not that old a country. But they have a lot to learn from us, and especially on this matter, and we have a lot to learn from them, I'm sure, especially with these two outstanding individuals called like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. So I'll be attending that meeting in Delhi on 24th, and we'll see what they have to say. You know, it's very easy to say 10, 20, 50, 100% of your wealth give away. That's very simple. What's the problem in that? But the question is, as far as I'm concerned, I will do what I think is proper, what my conscience tells me to do, what my family background is. My grandfather, Jamnalalji, gave away not only almost his entire wealth, but of himself to Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi considered him his fifth son. So, nowhere in America has that kind of a tradition or legacy. But I'm not my grandfather. So, what I will do will depend on lots of circumstances.
Do you think it's then a bit tougher here because many promoters have high stakes in holding companies, and that's how they hold a lot of their wealth?
It's a very valid point. As far as it's not used as an excuse for not giving, I can't speak for others, but many industrialists, and here I'm talking of industrialists, not just high net worth individuals, but industrialists like me. The Bajaj families, let's say over 97% of my wealth and Bajaj family's wealth is in the equity shares of Bajaj Group companies, which means almost our entire wealth. And if we are to give away half of that, how do we control our companies? You see, in America, the children do not necessarily follow the fathers and join the companies. So they can give away their wealth. It doesn't matter. But as I said, this should not be taken as an excuse, but this, as you have rightly asked the question, is a valid point, and perhaps will be brought up and discussed with Mr. Gates, and whom I have met before, and with Mr. Buffett, who's in fact, his company Berkshire is becoming a corporate agent of our insurance companies, Bajaj Allianz, as you know.
Suhel, do you expect Buffett's visit to get people to donate wealth?
You know, I'm not being cynical, but I am a bit of a skeptic when it comes to these big guns actually giving money. They will go for the photo opportunity. They'll stand by him, get their granddaughters and grandsons, you know, photographs autographed by Warren Buffett. But I don't think they'll actually take out their checkbooks. And even if they do, it would be for that cursory moment. And I think what Buffett would achieve in a real sense is he would inspire them to keep giving. It's not about giving. It's not a $1,000 plate dinner for President Obama that you're seen and then forgotten. I think what he needs to do, and what he must do, at least as far as India is concerned, he must inculcate the spirit of giving. He must tell people why giving is smart business. He must inspire people to believe that giving is important in tomorrow's social order if we want some sanity and some balance. And finally, he must become that beacon for philanthropy so that people learn, people emulate, and people are excited by this whole concept of giving. Giving he has to make as sexy as he makes the stock market out to be more often than not.
Fair enough, Suhel, but many argue that the concept of American charity is very different from what Indians consider charity. So is this going to work here?
You see, the difference is only slight, Anjana. Number one, the difference is we keep talking about Americans getting tax credits. So do our folks get ATG exemption on the income tax front. So I don't think that should be used as an excuse. The fact that Warren Buffett has gone beyond the borders of America, he's inspired people in Russia and China, he's talked to people almost everywhere in Europe, proves that Giving is not something confined to borders and linked to tax exemptions. Giving is an art that must come from within. It must be a belief that you believe in. It must be something that actually forces you and gives you great joy. It can't be something that must be forced upon you. It's not a school lesson that you must learn only to forget once you've passed the examination. So I think that's the critical difference.
Mr. Bajaj, in the surveys that have been done, India scores pretty low on philanthropy. What are your thoughts?
Now, first of all, I do not know what kind of survey you are referring to, and that the philanthropy is very low. Who is saying that as compared to, say, America? I mean, you have heard of 10, 20, 50 names, but America is the #1 superpower and economic power in the world. There are thousands and thousands of rich people. Of the billionaires list, the majority still are in America. So, I do not know, keeping in mind your income levels, when our income levels were there in America, that was probably 100 years ago. What were they doing at that time? So, I'm not prepared to be defensive on that, on behalf of India. Nobody, even a person today who earns maybe not even ₹1 lakh a year, and today what is ₹1 lakh a year? 10,000 rupees a month, 8,000 rupees a month. He gives something for a religious purpose. That is not counted anywhere. Which survey counts that? I would like to know which survey are we talking about. So, I'm not very sure. In fact, I think our Indian tradition, culture of philanthropy and giving, in fact, please read that book, I forget the name, by Rabindranath Tagore, written in 1905, or over 100 years ago, which said the Indian society has survived for so long, and he's written this 100 years ago, because the society, the better off people in the society, took care of the weaker people.
So, Suhel, better off people took care of the weaker sections of society, but many corporate honchos have also argued that they're still so new to the wealth that the tendency is to keep it for future generations, and it'll be a while before that tendency changes.
You know, Anjana, what I really detest about some of these Indian honchos is the following. A, they've made so much of money in this one lifetime that several of their generations can still be happy, but they'd still want to hoard. B, they use this stupid excuse saying, what's the point of giving when we don't know where our money will go? Set up foundations. Set up things in 3 critical areas, in the area of primary health, primary education, and what I would call population management. But none of them wants to do it. Having said that, you're absolutely right. Giving is not new to India. If you look at Manu Smriti 3,700 years ago, he talks about Daan, which is charity. At that time, Daan was essential to integrate communities. Today, Daan is essential to integrate India. You cannot have a situation where you have these gawkish and garish homes on the Amrita Shergill margs and the Prithviraj roads of Delhi and the Malabar hills of Bombay, and then alongside, cheek by jowl, you have slums nestling. You have people in the worst form of poverty. I think in order to maintain some social balance, giving is critical. Finally, these people today are living in an island of their own making. What we are seeing today in the form of Maoism is nothing but a social imbalance. Today they're in villages and district headquarters. Tomorrow they'll be knocking at your door and mine. Well, certainly not your door or mine, but you know whose doors I'm referring to. And then they're going to wake up. And at that time it'll be too late. You can't have such social inequality without consequential repercussions.
Mr. Bajaj, do you think that the fact that businesses are passed on to children in India is one of the reasons why pledging 50% of wealth to charity is impossible, unlike in the US?
You know, this 50% and all is rhetoric, and this is talk. I'm not impressed, quite frankly. Their conditions are different. What you should do is what is important. The Bajaj Group in a small way is doing a lot of charity for education, for health, for rural development, community development. We have hospitals, we support other hospitals. We have given, say in the last 5 years, crores and crores in donations, apart from spending on our own for rural community development. And we'll continue to do that, and we'll do more and more of that. So, yes, conditions here are different. I fully agree with you, but I would like to repeat is those different conditions does not mean that you cannot do charity and you cannot help the poor and you cannot give back to the society from which you have earned so much. Okay?
Suhel, to what extent does the parallel economy and the so-called rent-seeking that's so endemic now bring in some amount of harmony when it comes to where the money should really go, like real giving and charity?
I think it all does. I mean, you know, if you look at the parallel economy per se, the parallel economy doesn't benefit from people giving. I mean, I haven't seen of people giving cash to the poor or cash for causes. They often give checks because that's where they'll get exemptions from the tax authorities on. So I think that is a weak argument if that is proffered, saying that, oh, but we are doing so much and there's a parallel economy. The reality is how much of social contributions towards the social sectors that we are making from our balance sheets. How much are we actually doing from the personal wealth that we have? You know, I've often said, Anjana, including I think once on your program, the rich list is not going to be fashionable. The give list is. People are going to ask if you're amongst the top 10 givers. They're not going to be excited about the top 10 rich people, because you and I both know that riches are more on paper valuation. Giving is reality. Giving is what you create. Giving is what you set up. Giving is what you establish. And giving actually helps people. I think that differentiation is critical.
Rahul Bajaj, Suhel Seth, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out for this discussion.